Welcome to the Friday Habit with Benjamin Manley and Mark Labriola II.
The Friday Habit is for creators, entrepreneurs, and agency owners looking for actionable ideas on how to grow their business and be more profitable.
We'll pull from our combined knowledge of over 20 years and interview thought leaders that will inspire you and give you the motivation you need to kick your business into high gear. Buckle up. It's Friday. All right, welcome to the Friday Habit. And today we have a special guest. I am excited to have Laura Treonze on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to join you and your awesome listeners.
Yeah, so I have a little snippet of your bio here. It says, an executive coach who specializes in behavioral understanding to enhance company culture, maximize executive talent, and boost employee engagement. You combine psychology with experiential coaching methods to help individuals and teams break through limiting beliefs and increase productivity and profit.
I love it. I mean, what more do I need to say?
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Though, right?
yeah, it's awesome, and it leaves me wanting more. I want to ask you questions about all sorts of things. So,
like, what does that mean?
What does that mean? But hey, before we get started, I have some conversation cards here, and so Ben and I like to ask a open-ended question or a would you rather. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick from this deck, and whatever we get, that's what we get. So here we go. Okay, so this is an open-ended question. Okay. What are your top 3 rules for navigating life?
Oh, I love this. All right, let's see.
Jumping right in.
My top 3 rules for navigating life are define and create your experience. A lot of people know what they don't want and they're not clear on what they want. And so they tend to get more of what they don't want. So I think that's the number one thing, defining and creating your experience. The second thing is stay resourceful. Sometimes we can get on a track where we're so caught up in the how, we forget why we're doing what we're doing. And so this idea to stay resourceful to different options and not get so stuck on one path. Mm-hmm. And then the third one, it sounds corny and yet it's so true, is, be grateful for where you are. So there's this desire to always want more and get to the next level. And we forget to appreciate the success that we're in right now. I mean, I have a client this year who has reached his sales goal, and he owns the company in less than 6 months. And he's like, wow. Yeah, okay, so I'm ready for the next thing. I'm like, whoa, wait. Let's stop. Do you realize what just happened? This is a year after COVID. This is a business that, you were worried that you weren't even going to be able to continue last year. And look at where you are now. And so that idea of gratitude and appreciating where you are is so vital.
I love that. This question was heavy right out of the gate. Normally we have some would you rathers, that's like, would you want to eat chocolate or vanilla ice cream? I love that. My top 3, I would say, is be present, don't worry, and expect the blessing. So those are like the 3 things that I try to, are the things I try to communicate to my kids and people around me and whatnot. So
awesome. Those are awesome.
Ben, you got anything for us?
Man, now I feel like I need to have top 3. Mine are like,
what are your rules for navigating life?
Take a shower every once in a while. It's a good rule for life. Be intentional and try not to do something dumb. Those are my 3 rules for life.
Those are good. Let's talk about practical. The showering one. I think, especially after last year, a couple people can use that advice.
Exactly. And it has taken you far in life, Ben.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Laura, I'm curious to kind of hear a little bit more about how you got to where you are as far as being an executive coach, and tell us a little bit about where you started. Did you grow up in Connecticut and go to college and then get into counseling or something like that, or like what has your life journey been like up to this point?
Well, so I love that question because I think it also speaks back to one of my 3 rules is like, don't get so caught up in the how. Because my journey has been so interesting. I grew up in Massachusetts. I'm a New Englander, so I love our freaky weather. I love our cold winters. Yeah. I mean, I love our spring muddy rain. I love all of it. So I grew up in New England, and I thought when I was young I was going to be an attorney or go into politics. And so I studied poli-sci in school. But when I left school, I was asked to be a fundraiser for a college, and that was an amazing experience. But then I met my husband, we got married, and I was always interested. I bought a 2-family, so I was always interested in real estate. Mm-hmm. So, and I bought my 2-family when I was like, I don't know, 23 years old. And nice. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was a single, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go do this. And so once I got married, I said, hey, listen, like, I really love this real estate thing. I think I'm going to go get my real estate license. And so I got my real estate license. And while I was working for one of the big franchises, they use this assessment to help guide people to the part of real estate that best fit their behavioral style. And the problem was they would give it to you when you arrived, and then it would go into a drawer. And so I was on the leadership council, and the broker of my particular franchise was like, you know, it's so frustrating. These people have these big goals, but then they don't follow through. And so I said, like, give me their assessment. Let me look at it. And I look at it and I said, well, if their greatest fear is rejection, they're not going for no, even though that's what you're teaching us. And if they do, it's only going to be temporary because it takes so much energy for them. So I started to look at people's assessments, and then people started bringing them to me like, hey, can you look at this? Hey, can you look at this? So then we moved, and I happened to change companies because we just didn't have the franchise in the town that I moved to. And the owner of that company had said to me, I said, listen, I use this assessment with people, and I'd love for you to like pay for it. And he's like, no, that's not something I want to invest in. And you're not going to be able to get my agents to do it either. I'm like, really? Okay. So I love a challenge. Well, by the time I left, 90% of the office had taken it. And what had happened was people were saying like, my husband's looking for a new job. Could you give this to him? Or, you know, my child is having there's a children's assessment. My child's having some struggles. Like, could we use it with them? So I started to see this is much bigger than just real estate and helping realtors. And so I decided I was going to go and become a coach full time. And if I was going to be a coach, I wanted to have a coach and be coached by the best. So I hired a Tony Robbins coach.
Oh, nice.
And so while I was working with my coach, he helped me sort of transition out of real estate into coaching full time. And he said to me, like, have you ever thought about being a Robbins coach? And I'm like, nope, I've got my plan. I'm going to go do it on my own. And so that was my path. And then the more I got into the Robbins coaching, I just loved everything about it. So ultimately I did apply to be a Robbins coach, and I served as a Robbins coach for 2 years. And that, I mean, is just transformative opportunity just because of how he operates and how you coach. I mean, you're taught to coach anyone, anywhere, at any time.
Did you get to go to like those conferences and things like that where he's there and all hyper and intense? I saw the documentary, like I'm Not Your Guru or whatever.
Your guru.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to say, I don't feel like that did what he does for people justice. I mean, some people loved it. Being a part of the organization, I kind of thought, oh, like they missed it. Like they missed the camaraderie. I feel like they missed a lot of the real juicy stuff in terms of how it transforms people's lives. It's really powerful to be a part of the organization. So I decided that I really wanted to be able to pick and choose my own clients. And so to do that, I did leave the Robbins organization. And I say, although I no longer work there, I would be forever a client. And so since then, I've been on my own and really been blessed to be a part of people's journeys and to really help them look at where they are now, where do they want to go, and then how do you close that gap? I just honored that I get to do what I do every day.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love that. That sounds like a fantastic journey that has brought you to a very just great place in your life. So, and I know that, you know, whenever you're able to, you know, speak into someone's life and encourage somebody else, I know that it's so rewarding too, as far as, just how that feels. It's Ben and I get together once a year, and it's just so encouraging, just to be with each other and encourage each other. And then you just feel so satisfied, by that. So, one of the things in your little bio that we have here that made me take pause was a little bit about enhancing company culture. Both Ben and I have employees with our companies, and we know a lot of small business owners. And so I guess, how do you enhance company culture and boost employee engagement with behavioral understanding? I mean, that's the question that I have for you.
It's such a great question. And so I think that for me, in looking at hiring, ends up being the start of it, right? So often we hire based on skill and we fire based on attitude. And so when you hire based on, is this a fit for our culture first, so much of what you do can be trained. I mean, outside of, really distinct specialties, right? So it's making sure that when you're looking at behavior, you're looking at someone who's a cultural fit. And I think the key to know, and this was what was so important, and whether I'm working with salespeople or I'm working with HR or whatever department I'm working with, there is no right or wrong behavioral style. It's, are we a match? Are we a match for each other? Are we a match as a group? And so oftentimes what tends to happen is, while we're hiring, we hire based on what we like and what we think is going to be a good fit. When we look at certain job descriptions are more curtailed to certain behavioral styles than others. And so keeping that in mind, while keeping in mind, is this person going to be a fit for our overall culture, becomes really important and is often overlooked because the hiring process for so many people feels like drudgery. You lose someone, you're like, oh no, I have to hire. And so this helps to take away a little bit of the guessing when you're hiring.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Enneagram?
I have, yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's one thing that I do. Ben, do you have everyone take an Enneagram test at your office?
I think everyone has. I haven't, it's not a requirement or anything, but I think everybody on my team knows about it and has taken it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I found that to be very helpful in the sense of, the Enneagram has 9 points, and 9 different personality types. And when I really understand the motivation of why somebody does a certain thing, it helps me to have more grace with them, and maybe be able to motivate them in the right way that speaks specific to their personality type, because it's like that, like all the same things don't motivate, or one thing doesn't motivate different people the same way, And so trying to figure out, how do I get the most from you, and then make sure that you're a constant, fit. I think being a small company that's growing, a lot of times you hire your friends first and you just start, working, and then you get to this point to where you might have to have difficult conversations. And I think that's a part of the hard part about hiring and firing people is as you grow, are these individuals on board with your mission and your vision and all these other kind of things?
Right. Well, sort of going back to that, what motivates people, I was working with a client, and he had a team member who was kind of pushed over to his team, and he knew that she had so many great qualities, he wanted to keep her, but he wasn't sure if she wanted to be underneath him, because again, it was a new transition. So he said to me, I'm going to offer her a $10,000 raise. I said, why? Well, because, she would want more money. Well, wait a second. How do you know she wants more money? I'm not saying that she doesn't want more money, but I'm saying, why don't you ask her? And so he went to her in their first meeting and said, I'm grateful to have you on board. I want you to know what a value you are to us. What can I do to show you that? And she said, I've been at this company 7 years and never had training. He said, okay. So he said, you pick the training and we will make sure that it happens for you. Now, here's the key. So he's all excited. Of course, I said, I just saved you $10,000. Thank you very much. But here was the beautiful thing, and this is where the leadership comes in, is that by the time the training had come around, they were in the middle of a big project. And she said to him, I'm not going to go. And he said, no. You are going to go. I'm going to cover for you. Oh, you are going and you're not taking your phone. You are going to this training. That's all that you asked for. And there's no way I'm going to let you not have it. When she ultimately left the organization, like 2 or 3 years later, she wrote him a letter that said that she was the best boss that he had ever had. And that's all it took, was asking her, how can I show you that I appreciate you?
That's really, really good. Yeah, that's super interesting, because I definitely feel like some people, I'm just thinking of even people on my team, some people it's like flexibility of hours. For some people, it's like being able to do more work that they enjoy or focus on something that they feel like they're more skilled at. Or maybe there's just a few pain points of tasks that they have that like really they shouldn't be doing, and everybody forgot that they were still responsible for that. Oh, we could offload that to a contractor. Or so just identifying pain points or just opportunities, like I feel like that's such a good tip. And how did you ask that question? I think you said a couple different ways, but what would you recommend actually saying if you're telling somebody what is the exact question they should ask to identify that?
So the exact question I would ask in this situation is, how can I show you how much I appreciate you? Right. The other part of this, which, Mark, you mentioned you have kids. The other part is, how can I support you? Right. I mean, this is an open-ended question. A lot of times people will come into us, the people who work for us will come in with problems, and we want to help them fix it, but it's not the right fix for them. Sometimes they just need to vent. So how can I support you tends to be a good overall question. And again, for kids, when they're coming to me with their issues, I'm saying, okay, how can I support you right now? And you'd be fascinated at what people want and need, and it tends to be so much easier than you think it will be. It's really an amazing question.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that seems so. I love that. It's so funny because it's so simple, but then it's so powerful because instead of, and I think maybe this is, part of that being a man, like the stereotypical, like, let me just solve your problem. Tell me what you have going on. I can figure out a solution, and like my wife is always like, I don't want to hear your solutions. I just want you to listen. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I got solutions for these problems if you need them.
For you.
Yeah. But I think that's something so much more powerful, because all of a sudden you are kind of removing yourself from the equation, and then you're really getting to the root of what's best for that person, because they're telling you in their own words exactly what's going to be best for them. So I think that's powerful, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing that nugget.
No, welcome. And just coming full circle back to culture, company culture, and even hiring, one of the things that I notice as a pattern in hiring, regardless of whether it's a big company or a small company, is we're not asking enough questions. And so we're so busy trying to sell ourselves, whether you're the employee wanting to be hired or whether you're the company wanting to get the best employee. We're looking at, okay, what can I tell them to choose me, instead of what can I ask them to find out if this is a good match. And I'm really going deep with questions. And, even that in the hiring process, how do you like to be supported is a really important question, because they may tell you something that you go, oh, you know what? Actually, that's not something we do here, and we're probably not going to, or that's not something we do here, but maybe that's something we could implement and it would make a world of difference. So, again, using these questions even from the start at that hiring process.
Do you have any examples of the types of things that are like not great questions to ask when you're hiring somebody, like the general stuff, and then maybe some like, oh, a better question to ask is this? Do you have any ideas of like what types of questions would be more insightful?
I love interview questions. So let me think. So I will say, and people who work with me know this because I say it all the time, one of my favorite questions to ask both as an interviewee and someone who is interviewing is, if you could change one thing about the organization, what would it be? And so whether it's, if you could change one thing about the organization you're currently with, what would it be? Or, if I'm interviewing at a company, if you could change one thing about the organization, what would it be? It gives you access into any challenges they might have without sugarcoating. Because when you say it that way, people are like, oh, wait a second, here's something that I would change. And I think that and if you're asking that question to enough people, you can start to see patterns, and again, especially if you're the person being interviewed, you can start to see organizational patterns if people are saying the same thing over and over. And it just gives you greater insight into what's happening. I'd say a not great question. There's just so many generic questions that are used during interviews, tell me, a challenge that you've overcome. Well, of course, we're going to we've kind of got that canned answer.
Sure. I
want to ask the questions that you don't have a canned answer for. And so even if a generic question is asked, I'm going to go deeper and say, I'm happy to answer that question. What's important about that question to you? Because oftentimes we're asking a question because we want a specific answer. And I want to understand, where is this coming from? What are you thinking when you're asking this question? I want to go deeper and get that understanding of where is this going? And again, is that a match for me?
All right, we're going to pause this conversation here. Go to thefridayhabit.com. There you can find show notes for this episode. There you can also find links to our websites and ways to get in touch. At the bottom of the page, you can download our guide to the Friday Habit System that will show you how to set aside one full day each week dedicated to working on your business instead of in your business. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear next week's episode, subscribe so you get notified. Also, leave us a review in Apple Podcast app or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you want to potentially be on one of our episodes with a question you ask us, go ahead and record a quick message in your phone, voice memo, and email it to hello@thefridayhabit.com. Until next time, live every day like it's Friday.